Lucy Gayheart, Book 2, Chapter 8. The day before Christmas opened with a hard snowstorm. When the Gayhearts looked out of their windows, the ground was already well covered. The porches and the hedge fence were drifted white. At breakfast, Mr. Gayheart said that when he went down to make the furnace fire at 6 o'clock, the snow must have been falling for some time. Lucy spent the morning tramping about in the snow on errands for Pauline. She took boxes of Christmas cakes to all their old friends, carried a pudding in its mold out to the Lutheran pastor's house at the north end of town, where there was no sidewalks and she had to wade through deep snowdrifts. The storm brought back the feeling children have about Christmas, that it is a time of miracles, when the angels are near the earth, and any wayward weed may suddenly become a rose bush or a Christmas tree. Pauline was delighted to see Lucy so like herself again. She invented errands to keep her going, but late in the afternoon she thought her sister looked tired and sent her upstairs to her own room to rest until supper time. Lucy did not feel tired. She was throbbing with excitement and with the feeling of wonder in the air. She put the blinds up high and sat down in a rocking chair to watch the bewildering silent descent of the snow all over the neighbors' houses, the trees and gardens. She was alone on the upper floor. The daylight in her room grew grayer and darker. Lights in the house across the street began to shine softly through the storm. She tried to feel at peace and to breathe more slowly, but every nerve was quivering with a long-forgotten restlessness. How often she had run out on a spring morning into the orchard, down the street, in pursuit of something she could not see but knew. It was there, in the breeze, in the sun. It hid behind the blooming apple boughs, raced before her through the neighbors' gardens, but she could never catch up with it. Clement Sebastian had made the fugitive gleam an actual possession. With him, she had learned that those flashes of promise could come true, that they could be the important things in one's life. He had never told her so. He was, in his own person, the door and the way to that knowledge. Tonight, through the soft twilight, everything in her was reaching outward, straining forward. She could think of nothing but crowded streets with life streaming up and down, windows full of roses and gardenias and violets. She wanted to hold them all in her hands, to bury her face in them. She wanted flowers and music and enchantment and love, all the things that she had first known with Sebastian. What did it mean that she wanted to go on living again? How could she go on, alone? Suddenly something flashed into her mind, so clear that it must have come from without, from the breathless quiet. What if life itself were the sweetheart? It was like a lover waiting for her in distant cities across the sea, drawing her, enticing her, weaving a spell over her. She opened the window softly and knelt down beside it to breathe the cold air. She felt the snowflakes melt in her hair, on her hot cheeks. Oh, now she knew. She must have it. She couldn't run away from it. She must go back into the world and get all she could of everything that had made him what he was. Those splendors were still on earth, to be sought after and fought for. In them, she would find him. If with all your heart you truly seek him, you shall ever surely find him. He had sung that for her in the beginning, when she first went to him. Now she knew what it meant. She crouched closer to the window and stretched out her arms to the storm, to whatever might lie behind it. Let it come. Let it all come back to her again. Let it betray her and mock her and break her heart. She must have it. On Christmas Day, Lucy wrote to Paul Auerbach to wish him a Happy New Year and to tell him that she wanted to go back to him if he had any work for her to do. I have found out that I can't run away from my own feelings, she wrote. The only way for me is to do the things I used to do and to do them harder. An answer came from him the following week, a long, kind letter which must have taken him most of his Sunday morning. He and Mrs. Auerbach were greatly relieved to hear that she felt this change. The young man who had taken over Lucy's pupils when she left so suddenly had been promised his position until the 1st of April, when he was going abroad to study. If Lucy would come on about the middle of March, she could stay with them, and Mrs. Auerbach would help her to find a room and get comfortably settled before she went to work. You will have a warm welcome in the house of your old friend and teacher, Paul Auerbach. Lucy had hoped she could go at once. Perhaps by March she would have lost her courage and be sunk in apathy again. But she could not ask her father for money, not with Pauline's narrow eyes always watching. She must look out for herself from now on, and she could do it. She must wait. End of Chapter 8, Book 2, Lucy Gayheart. Lucy Gayheart, Book 2, Chapter 9. Lucy thought she ought to begin to study again, so she tried going to her father's shop every day and working on the sample piano. But Jacob Gayheart did not keep his ear open as he used to. He had gone backward in his music. He neglected it for chess. Soon after Christmas, he had fallen away from playing duets with Lucy in the evening. He said he had to stay later in the shop, but his daughters knew that he was playing chess by telephone with a celebrated player who was visiting a cousin in North Platte. To be sure, he didn't often have a chance to match his skill with such an opponent. Mr. Gayheart had let the shop get so dusty that it wasn't a pleasant place to practice in. The space around the piano was full of broken music stands and brass instruments that were never cleaned, and the walls were hung with dusty band uniforms. It embarrassed Lucy when people came in for watches and clocks that should have been repaired weeks ago. If she stayed at home to practice, there were so many things to put her out. She was restless now, and trifles got on her nerves. No matter how orderly she managed to keep her own room, she couldn't help being aware that just on the other side of that thin partition, her sister's room was in confusion. There was no doubting it, for Pauline left her door open. It was Pauline's custom not to make her bed until noon. She managed to get out of it in the morning without throwing off the blankets, leaving it like a molehill with the very shape of her body. "Lucy," she said one morning, "what's got into you to be turning your mattress and sweeping your room every day? You never used to be so fussy." "A little Italian showed me how a sleeping room ought to be kept. I learned something besides music last winter," Lucy replied as she went downstairs. Pauline squinted. That remark nettled her, really hurt her feelings. She kept recalling it for days afterwards. Lucy did what she could on the shop piano in the morning, and every afternoon she walked through the town and out the road to the north, where the land lay high and she could look down over the Platte Valley. She began to notice things about the country that she had never taken much heed of before. She believed she was bidding the country goodbye this winter, and that made her eye more searching. One thing she watched for every afternoon. Long before sunset, an unaccountable pink glow appeared in the eastern sky, about halfway between the zenith and the horizon. It was not a cloud. It had not the depth of a reflection. It was thin and bright like the color of a postcard. On sunny afternoons, it was sure to be there, a pink rouge on the hard blue cheek of the sky. From her window, she could watch this color come above the tall, wide-spreading cottonwood trees of the town park, where her father led the band concerts in summer. Did that pink flush used to come there, in the days when she was running up and down these sidewalks? Or was it a new habit the light had taken on? If there was anyone in Haverford who could tell her, it would be Harry Gordon. He was the only man here who noticed such things, and he was deeply, though unwillingly, moved by them. When she used to go duck shooting with him, she had found that he knew every tree and shrub and plant they ever came upon. Harry kept that side of himself well hidden. He could feel things without betraying himself because he was so strong. If only she could have that strength behind her instead of against her. It was more than physical strength. It was something that could keep up to the bitter end, that could take hold and never let go. She was so without any such power that even to think of it heartened her a little. Perhaps someday they would be friends again. He was conceited and hard to teach, but she believed he would go on learning about life, because he had more depth than the people around him and never pretended to like anything he didn't like. Quite the other way. He played at being a common fellow, and he wasn't. He was full of that energy which moves quietly, but always moves. It might get a man almost anywhere, she thought, and the people who hadn't it, even those with nice tastes, like her father, never got anywhere. End of Chapter 9, Book 2 of Lucy Gayheart.